Are you getting something to eat right now? Yeah, that's what I was doing too. I was like, oh man, time got ahead of me, and I was like, well, I need to get a few bites in at least before I jump on the
I
meeting.
know.
So, how's it been going though?
It's going good. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone healthy and
Yeah, I've had a lot of kids out this week. Like the
yeah.
flu went around my classroom.
Hmm.
I got it like 2 weeks ago or got sick. So I think that's why I'm like, I'm okay. They're just
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So,
I remember you mentioning that, and when you
hmm
their own personal kids too, right?
hmm
My kindergartner yesterday, we got word from the school like they're like I guess 15 kids in the class were out
Oh my
due to sickness.
gosh.
So there was only like I don't know 10 kids or whatever.
hmm
So the school was like, hey, please make sure you keep kids home. We got to kind of get this notification. So I'm like, oh man. So we're like waiting for my son to get sick, but so far
Yeah.
it's been a couple of days and he's been good. So
Maybe
we'll
his immune
see.
system's amazing.
Yeah, and he did get sick a couple weeks back, but who knows which sickness it is? And I guess he just told us that a kid had thrown up at his class the day before, and I was like,
Oh my
oh
gosh.
no,
He threw up. Ugh.
yeah. So it is what
Yeah.
it is, but yeah. So for the purposes of today, I just kind of wanted to go over. I know we had put a kind of started last week a little bit, so just kind of give a breakdown of this plan section of the ILP to kind of get it going. And see where we are, see kind of where we place ourselves, see if we're happy with the language that we've done, and just to kind of clarify a couple things. So first off, let's just kind of walk me through from a 30,000 view of what you hope, what you think the goal is, just kind of in our everyday language here.
My goal is like just to do better data collection towards students' IEP goals.
Okay.
So that way I can like integrate that into how I'm teaching.
Okay.
So that way I can see like more of their deficits with this data collection. Like, what do we need to spiral back and do? Like, why are we not getting this? So,
Okay. And how does this compare or build upon? Because I know you had alluded to that last time we met,
mhm.
on your kind of work with Rachel last year and your ILP there. How does this build on that, and or how does it completely change? How has it changed?
um, I think it builds on it last year. So I focused on like getting my students over to a higher DOK level. So like their
Okay.
depth of knowledge.
Hmm.
So I think this builds on it and ties into it because now we're looking at like the data aspect, not just the teaching aspect, but like what does the data show?
Mm,
And then how can we put it all together? And then I think, of course, it's just going to help me as an educator, as an IEP, I mean, as a special ed teacher, like with
right.
my IEPs and everything.
Sure. For sure. For sure. Okay. Let's look at, and I know I'm sharing this right now, and obviously you can look at your copy and however you want to do that, but let's look at the CSTP. I know we had juggled between two or three different ones last time we kind of met, and I said
hmm
okay, that was kind of your homework, is to kind of see what made you settle, and by no means am I saying you need to settle today because we can always change or add. What was it about this 5.3 that spoke to you? How do you think it aligns with what you want to
Let me see.
focus on? Yeah, take your
Well,
time, read.
specifically because what I'm doing is like reviewing the data. I'm talking to like my colleagues. I'm kind of mirroring it with a colleague that I had last year,
Mm,
how she collected the data and implemented it with her like binder system.
okay.
And then, sorry, and then I can't see the other last part. Oh, a monitor student learning. So, like, that's exactly what I want to do because that's how I want to grow as an educator.
Mm.
So, in the evidence, yeah.
Yeah, so I know last time we just in passing, and you could change this, of course, but you said kind of a more of an exploring.
hmm
Um, so I'll just kind of read it. Reviews, monitors additional assessment data individually and with colleagues, and identifies learning needs of individual students. Expands knowledge that IEP goals are developed using data from past progress and are linked to services within the least restrictive environment. So what about that language made you think like, yeah, this is kind of where I feel like.
Yeah, it's like what I'm doing and I'm proficient at. Like I'm collecting data. I can say like what they can do, can't do based on their IEP and their services and what we're monitoring. But I'm not like taking that for each individual student and saying,
Mm,
well, they'll benefit from this, doing this while I'm teaching, or I need to circle back and do that for, like I try to, but I want to do that more or like
okay.
adjust my teaching, my instruction. I'm not, feel like I'm like just going with the pacing and
Mm,
trying to build on their deficits where now I want to collect more data and pause on that if I have to and just really build.
okay. So if we look at the spectrum itself, obviously emerging,
Mhm.
exploring, applying, et cetera, we're gonna maybe this is a bad assumption, but assume that we're not going to jump all the way to kind of innovating,
Right.
although that's eventually a goal. But if you were to look, and I'll ask you to take a second to look at the language in the applying column, what is it? What is it that you think you might need to do or put into practice in order to move over to the applying section, or maybe even not do, depending on what you find from that.
Let me see. Applying to reviews and monitors variety of data. Student. I think, well, one, I would have to start like looking at, so this for applying to me, it sounds like you're looking at like the student themselves, but then the whole group. So that I would have to like really like get with my math team and my colleagues and work with them on building like my teachings and then also, sorry.
That's okay.
And then where it says like systematically reviews data individually and with colleagues to allow for evidence, like that's also like the collaboration part of that, going over data with my colleagues, asking for that support.
And so you feel like right now that's lacking a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Um, Correct me then if I'm wrong. I know maybe I misheard. I wasn't really
Mhm.
tracking. Earlier you had mentioned coming up with this goal had a little bit to do with your, and I thought it was collaboration, but
Mhm.
just inspired by another colleague that was doing the
Yeah.
same. Okay.
Like I saw how she collects data last year in her books or she like made binders and
Mm,
have goal work and stuff like that. So I reached out to her this year because I think that really aligns with what I want to
yeah,
do for my goal.
yeah.
So
That kind of, and I don't mean to jump around, sorry, but your ACT section of ILP, that's where those interactions can come in.
okay.
I do see that you wrote something on here. I talked with colleague to discuss
Mhm.
data collection. Oh, so you're
Right.
already ahead of it. I love it. Yeah. So, and that can look a lot of different ways, right? So how you apply that in the classroom, um, and it may not even necessarily be in the classroom, but how you apply it for you, right? So it could be at a PLC, it could be after school, it could be, so that could look different ways. And then the interesting thing is going to be, okay, what is going to be the measurable result of that? And that really depending on what it is, maybe it's a particular form, maybe it's a strategy, I don't know.
Mhm.
um, that can be a different part of the act section, but we can talk about act section stuff kind of later on. I know you have some experience with it, so that's always nice.
Yeah.
I've, as you can see, and I apologize, I should have asked for permission, I was just kind of writing down some things, kind of jotting some things down as we went here. You can change this, you can add to it. In fact, I would encourage you to do so, make it your own, add things, delete my stuff, that's fine. Just kind of again, ask yourself why do I place myself in this? What's the language
Mhm.
that kind of speaks to me? What am I currently doing? And then also like what might it take to move over? Because it's kind of what we were discussing now. So
Right.
just kind of wordsmith that um, as best you can. And what we will do then, we will revisit this either once or maybe even twice as we're moving along to kind of see where we are and see if we've shifted over on this continuum
Okay.
for our improvement. And the nice thing about these CSTPs is the language is here, right? So if we have some idea of what does this mean or what might it look like, this kind of gives us words, it gives us language to you know, place ourselves so kind of we know where we're going, which I think is a nice thing. Um, So I love that. I love that you were ready to go. Was there any other CSCP? Was it hard to land on this? Because I know that I think there was another one. I know I wrote down the number somewhere. I just don't know where I
It
put it.
wasn't hard to land on. It was, do I want to do more than one? But I
Okay.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
for just for me, like just to not complicate things.
Mm,
Like I think it's gonna lead into that for me,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
anyways, but for this process and purpose, I can just stick with one. And if
Hmm.
I'm end up doing two and want to add to it, that we'll talk about that. But
Yeah. For sure.
I just
Um,
want to make sure this is like fully complete.
what I wanted to say too is yeah. Don't you don't have to limit yourself necessarily. So by all means, feel free if like in the next week or two, you're like
Mhm.
I want to change it. There's still a little time, or I want to add to it. That's great too.
Okay.
Um, I might rename this later just so we have some idea. But okay, cool. Yeah, and I kind of like where you're thinking. So talk to me then. Walk me through your focus question here with question number 3. And I know you mentioned
Okay, I
you
need
kind of
help with
took
that.
some. No, no, I was reading it going, I actually edited a couple of little things, just
Okay, yeah,
nothing
because I was
crazy,
like,
just um, it was just little kind of typos and stuff. But I know you
mhm.
had mentioned you had used a process with Rachel, and I was looking at it as a matter of fact a couple days ago, and I was like, oh, I like her. She's coming from. So yeah, walk me through what you have here.
Okay, so let me see. How does data collection influence seventh and eighth graders, students' performance or progress towards IEP goals as evidenced by teacher observation, artifacts, learning, and differentiated progress monitoring collection?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's like straightforward. Like,
It
I'm
is.
going to
Yeah.
collect data. I've created so far like little binders, and it has their goal on the front. And then I even have my aides helping me with the worksheets. I think I told you like one of my students loves Sonic. So
Yeah.
this goal, which I didn't create because I would never create a multiplication goal for an eighth grade student.
Okay.
I'll preface that. But he has a multiplication goal. So, like, we put the little Sonic on here, and then this is his worksheet. So, I have my aides helping me create these so we can just change the numbers. But then I'm also making sure, like, I'm integrating that into the learning when I'm teaching the eighth grade curriculum, trying to monitor that as well. Like, when he's actually doing his math, like, is he able to do multiplication, even single digit, like his math fluency? So my process is just to collect data, create the binders specifically for each student geared towards their goal, but then look at that, like with this goal, how is it helping either
Mm,
show me their deficit or their strengths and apply that into my teaching.
beautiful. Yeah, and just using that as analysis. So down
Mhm.
here and thinking about it in terms of the ILP form, and I know you did this last year. So box 14 is kind of where we add certain artifacts, and this is a just a kind of list of suggested things to put in there. And so as you're doing that, I'm thinking, okay, let's put in a sample of the student
Mhm.
folder, of a student binder, of the Sonic math thing of, and I'm sure there'll be others that have come up. So just to kind of give you an idea, you can link those there
Okay, perfect.
as you go. So again, you can erase my stuff here. Those are just kind of uses as
I
notes
think
if you
last
wish.
time what I did was like a link.
Yeah,
Like I listed them, but it was a link with all of the pictures of my
beautiful.
artifacts.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly. And they don't have to necessarily be final products, or you can
Right.
we're trying to keep it anonymous as much as we can, but
Yeah.
just to see what's going on. Also, samples of things that you have is perfectly fine
Hmm.
too, or in addition to. I think what might need specificity, and this can kind of change kind of as we go. For the purposes of the question, I think it works. But for box 4, the anticipated measurable outcomes is, how are we going to, okay, so we kind of have some idea of what we're going to be looking at,
Uh-huh.
but how are you going to know if that goal is being met? So obviously,
Yeah.
you as a teacher have a way of kind of knowing, and so you can kind of decide that on your own in terms of your opinion. But are we looking at a particular, test score, for example? We're looking at growth from one point to another. Um,
Well,
what
like
is it that
within
we're going to
the
look? And
yeah.
again, you may not even know the answer to this now, and that's okay. So what do you think in there?
Well, because like the IEP goals have to be measurable. So
Hmm.
say like 4 out of 5 times with 80% accuracy, stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
Which these are already written. I didn't write them. So
Yeah,
I'm
no, I got you.
literally doing that. Like
Okay.
today we do goal work. We did it on Wednesday. So how many you get right out of that? And I have my aides doing it already, where they put like the percentage he got. And so then we have them for months. I'm having them filed by month so we can look like, okay, this was 5 times he tried it or 4 times, and he has 70% is his average.
Okay.
So I'm literally measuring it just on one, like the mathematical data, but also like I'm trying to gauge their understanding in class too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Which
they're
is
showing their what are they showing me they understand? Because each of
equally
them
as
try
important.
super hard on, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. A couple of things come to mind in terms of just kind of how it gets written out. First of all, that's amazing. I love it. And you can, I know we've discussed, picking a handful of focus students so you can emphasize that a little bit more when we're down below for the analysis part. But here you can also even and I know every individual has their own IEP goals. So if you want to give one as an example, like you just said, 4 out of 5, 80%,
Mhm.
whatever, you can be very, very specific here with that too, without
Okay.
giving the name of any particular person. But I think it's important to also note you as a teacher are going to be making these observations as well.
Mhm.
So, when you mean the student artifacts, I was just going to go down the list of things. What is it that you are?
So they're worksheets and then there's their work. So I'm
Okay.
trying to get them to show their work more.
Okay.
So like seeing where did we go wrong in this double digit multiplication?
Okay. So and I'm just going to throw some stuff here. So change it just
Okay.
so the showing of work.
Yes.
And the reason I say that, because some people are like, well, I'm having trouble with people of them turning it in. So just the fact that they turn it in, so they're going to be counting that, right? So just to kind of give some little more detail to that. I
So
love
where
that.
would I put?
Mhm.
So where it says student progress monitoring book, that's where you would say like indicate like to achieve 80% in 4 out of 5 trials,
Yes.
like student A, student B,
Mhm. Yeah, and you
40%.
can do it
Yeah.
all, but just
Oh,
as an
okay.
example of this is one
Okay.
way I can do this, right?
And then I think for my focus question, I should add math because I'm going to be specifically doing this in math.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
how does my use of data collection influence 7th and 8th grade students' performance in math? Wait,
IEP
performance of
goals as
progress towards
evidenced
math
by.
IEP goal?
Yeah, if you're doing math specifically, if you want to
Yeah,
leave it open ended, that's okay too. But if yeah,
yeah, I'm
even
doing
better.
math because
Okay.
I can't get them.
No, 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 and sometimes it's better to be specific, and sometimes
Yeah.
not
So maybe
necessarily.
so I think I would add towards math IEP goals. So I'll go.
Yeah,
Okay.
love that. I'm going to. Oh no, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, just to break down a little bit. So as you're beginning to put things into practice, and again, maybe you already have, and you're trying things out. This is where this act section comes into play. So after today, we'll essentially be done with this plan section.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I'll come up here and just check this off.
Okay.
And then
Oh,
then it's
when's the
like,
act section due?
and well, it's a light March 31st.
Okay.
But you're a different scenario here because of how you've come in. So we can discuss that. Or if you want to do it in pieces, you could do that as well. But just to kind of keep us on pace because we want to finish
Yeah.
up in May.
No, I think
Um,
that's good actually because my students, both of them that I'm
mm.
focusing on, their tries are in March. So I'll be
Okay.
writing new goals. So I think
Okay.
that's good.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you want to do it all by next week, that's great too. But we want to give us ourselves a realistic timeline as well of implementing, measuring results, seeing what's going on, analyzing.
Mhm.
If you have help, and obviously you want to meet with your colleagues as well. You were talking about a little bit too, so that all is understandable. Um, so let me.
Mm.